Hello, I am Alexia Rodriguez, and I chose to do violence in the media. Violence in the media is something that is very important to viewers, mainly to those that have children that have access to such content. This can also be an issue with viewers who gain a thrill with watching such violent media and then eventually begin to act upon that content within their daily lives. It is also a big issue because it leads to companies having to find a way to advertise their content without conflicting the FCC rules and regulations. Another topic I would like to touch would be the content that is shown on television, aside from the violence in the media, such as the type of content that is shown to glamorize certain content. But I believe this also falls under the same category of viewers acting upon what they see. For instance, although I know this is just a show and the way the content was shown could be switched and manipulated, in the show CSI Miami, they aired an episode that involved a copycat, which the episode was aired in 2005 as Urban Hellraisers that involved copycats who were trying to replicate the popular video game. In which case, a copycat, according to Merriam-Webster, is a person who does the same thing as someone else, a person who adopts behavior, style, etc. of someone else. In this episode, it involved the video game Grand Theft Auto, which if you have not played the game, you basically walk around and steal vehicles which include but are not limited to pedestrians, parked vehicles, and vehicles that are at stoplights, etc. The character eventually begins to acquire money and points in ways that include but are not limited to stealing from pedestrians, killing prostitutes, and shooting anyone that they encounter to take their money. This video game eventually led to a user that began to mimic the video game's actions and began to shoot the real-life pedestrians. It was not clear if they mimicked all of the incidents I just mentioned, but it did mention that the user began to shoot people at particular locations of the day in accordance to the video game. I mention a video game because although the game is restricted to M for mature audiences, which is 17 years of age and up, this does not mean that a younger generation cannot pick up the game from their sibling, relative, or friend, etc. With the rating system, companies cannot be liable for a user that chose to act upon a video game as they set up everything in accordance to the Federal Communications Commission. This video game, like many others, are restricted to certain age groups, which means their content cannot be reached to everyone. There was an actual case in London that involved the Manhunt video game. Basically, the user gains more points on how vicious or gruesome their killings are. This case involved a 70-year-old Warren LeBlanc and his victim of 14 years of age, Stefan Pakira, in the year 2004. Based on the information given, it was a premeditated crime as he lured Pakira to a park in Leicester in the English Midlands, in which he then beat Pakira with a claw hammer and then eventually stabbed him. The company Rockstar, who developed the video game Manhunt, stated in regards to the lawsuit that the video game met all regulations in accordance to British Board of Film Classifications, as it was rated classified 18, which indicates that the video game should not have been in the possession of a juvenile. Previously, though, a U.S. lawyer named Jack Thompson stated that he had been writing to the company's producers in regards to the game leading to possible copycats. Manhunt was eventually banned by censorship officials. This is not just an issue that raises concern in the video game industry. It also raises concerns in the film industry. For instance, the issue with the trailer for the film Insidious was screened during a Puss in Boots film for children in 2011. Parents were outraged by the incident. This could lead to future paranoia and trauma for children because of the incorrect content being shown during the previews. Another case in regards to media violence is of the hit television show Dexter. Dexter is the name of the actual character, and he is a forensics expert, as well as a serial killer. He was found in a large ship container where his mother was slaughtered, and he was covered and sitting in her blood. This would eventually be the turning point of Dexter's life, and he would become a serial killer. Except his father made it to where he would trigger his anger towards particular targets rather than everyone in general. The thing about Dexter is that he does not glamorize killing just anyone. He has particular people in mind that he has a target on and is considered a justifiable death, or as stated on the IMDb website, a serial killer that hunts the bad, such as rapists, murderers, or anyone he considers to be guilty. But these standards can differ based on the person. In the case of 70-year-old Andrew Conley, he stated that he killed another person because he had been wanting to murder someone for many years now, and that Dexter gave him the incentives that he needed to follow with his plans to murder another. Situations like this show that the copycat can relate to the character, and it's as if they are the character and they must fulfill the urges to be the character. Or the case with the films inspiring their viewers to commit crimes based on what they see in the films. The films begin with a disclaimer as well as end with the same disclaimer. For instance, in the case of the films titled Jackass, their disclaimer is shown at the very beginning of the film with a warning sign in large capital red letters as a way to gain the audience's attention. The warning sign reads as follows: "The stunts in this movie were performed by professionals, so for your safety and the protection of those around you, do not attempt any of the stunts you are about to see." In 2007, the show led to a Connecticut senator named Joe Lieberman to write a letter to MTV to take greater responsibility for the damages they were causing with their viewers due to content they were showing. MTV eventually moved the television show to a 10 p.m. showing, but this was not enough for Lieberman, so eventually MTV refused to air the show. This did not end well with the cast and crew, as they felt that MTV should not have given in so quickly. Another example would be the case of Herzog versus Hustler in 1987. The case involved was an article titled "Orgasm of Death," which was about autoerotic asphyxiation and the dangers its users risked in order to gain a pleasurable high. The case involved a 14-year-old who read the article and decided to practice what he had read, which led to his parents having found him hanging in his room from a belt. Despite all of the disclaimers and warnings the article stated, and that Hustler magazine did not condone such practices, the family decided to sue Hustler, but they lost the case because Hustler won with First Amendment grounds. Reason being was that the article had what they stated as intrinsic journalistic value and sufficient warnings as to not be endorsing a dangerous practice. Another example was the film The Program, a scene in the film where a character, and which is followed by the rest of the characters a few moments later, lays down in the middle of the road where the lines divide the streets. And in the film, of course, they survive, and it is shown as a way to live on the edge or be cool, etc. In real life, though, an 18-year-old tried to mimic the same stunt but was killed by a truck. This led to one death, the 18-year-old, and led to the critical injuries of many other people due to the stunt in the film, but the film had foreseen such actions and they took precautions for it. Precautions taken by media companies are known as media liability. There are common criteria that the media must take into consideration when making a film, such as did the media incite or encourage such dangerous behaviors or criminal activity? Did they foresee a clear and present danger in regards to their content? Were there sufficient warning signs, and can the media be truly liable for the actions of their viewers? All of this is something that the television, social media, films, etc. must take into consideration before making a film. In some cases, the disclaimers and warning signs were not sufficient or easily accessible to the viewer, which can lead for the media company to lose a lawsuit or lead to an undisclosed settlement. With that said, I believe we should help bring an understanding to viewers about what violence in media can trigger in a child or in a person in general. Certain content can be like a gateway to violence in the future if one is not fully aware of what they are watching, or how it can affect them later on in life. I grew up watching all types of movies, but I was able to differentiate between what is right and wrong with the content that I was viewing. Not everyone is able to differentiate whether a child or an adult. This content can come from televisions, movies, social media, internet, and news reports. Thank you.